Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Unity on the Eastern Shore. We are so glad you're here today. Nothing is by accident. We are all here in divine order, and we are blessed by your presence. Our purpose statement, we can read together. It's not up on the screen, but you probably know it. So if you recall it, say it together with me now. Our purpose, oh, here we go. Our purpose is to foster a new level of spiritual awareness through worship and fellowship, and to lift one another to a Christ-like maturity. We envision the world as healed and whole. And our affirmation, we will read together as well. Hopefully it will come up on the screen in a moment. Go ahead, perhaps you'll remember it. Divine wisdom is the light shining upon my path. I open myself to the divine flow of goodness, ideas, and substance. And now hopefully we will have some music. We'll give that a moment to come up. So while we're waiting for the music, I'll go ahead with the daily word. The daily word for today, Sunday, January 23rd, is faith. I faithfully focus on my divinity. My power of faith is my ability to believe and have conviction.
Everything is a wonder, unfolding right before our eyes. Everything is sacred. Everything is filled with the divine. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everything is a wonder, unfolding right before our eyes. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everything is a blessing, bursting from the earth and sky. Everything is alive with spirit, with spirit. Everyone is sacred. Everyone is filled with the divine.
Such a beautiful message with that music. And now our daily word for January 23rd. The daily word today is faith. I faithfully focus on my divinity. My power of faith is my ability to believe and have conviction. It is my inner assurance of something before it can be seen. I may not be able to control what happens around me, but I'm always free to choose what happens within me. My perception determines my experience. When I engage my power of faith, I'm assured of my vibrant wholeness that is present even during illness. I have conviction that harmony is possible even during apparent discord. When my needs appear greater than my resources, I have the inner assurance that substance is my limitless supply of mind ideas. My inner assurance is of my enduring divinity. It is always greater than any circumstance. I align with my divinity now and set myself free. I faithfully focus on my divinity. And we are about to be treated to a talk on applying God's gifts in our daily lives by Bobby Joe McColl's. McColl's? I'm not certain how to pronounce Bobby Joe's name. A little about Bobby Joe. Bobby Joe has always had a zest for life and naturally gravitated toward the healing arts, helping and serving others around the country. Growing up in a small town on Cape Cod, she made her big move to California in 1990. Not after moving to California, she became a massage therapist. But her love of the outdoors introduced her to whitewater rafting, and she quickly became a river guide. And now let's hear a message from Bobby Joe.
Thank you, Summer. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's wonderful to see everyone. Thank you. I was dealing with a little bit of technology issues this morning. Great. I'd like us first just to close our eyes and just find our breath and just land for a moment together as a group in this beautiful sacred container of being us and our energy. So as we close our eyes, and we take a nice deep breath into that diaphragm, into their lungs, filling them into their capacity. Pausing at the top and just witnessing, what are we holding on to? And just let it go. Just let it go and drop in the sweet moment of the present. One more nice deep breath. Witnessing and just letting go. And very gently, we open our eyes. I'd like to start with a quote this morning by Steve Bow. God's gift to you is more talent and ability than you could ever possibly use in your lifetime. Your gift to God is to develop as much of that talent and ability as you can in this lifetime. Applying God's gifts on a daily basis. When we first think about God's gifts, one might think about specific talent that could be, maybe they acquire like they're really great athletes, or maybe they were a really good writer or a public speaker or an artist. Or if you ask somebody else about talents and gifts, they might think it's just someone who's hardworking, they have kindness, compassion, integrity, strong values. But I'm not speaking today about any of those gifts. Today, I'm talking about God's gifts to us in the beautiful form of our minds. Not to be mistaken for our brain, that's the physical part, but our minds, the energy of our brain that's out here. I have heard that there's more power in our little pinky than there is in a whole nuclear power plant. Now, I'm not a doctor of physics, but I do study and read a lot every day. And it isn't really something to think about if there's really more power than a whole nuclear power plant right here. How come we're not taught to think this way? How come we're not taught this in school? Thoughts are energy, and we can create our world. Think about what master manifestors we could be, especially if we were learning as we learned in school to walk, to talk, to learn our ABCs. Hey, mom, hey, dad, look at me and see. God has created us all equally. How's that, Sharon Sinclair? Trying to do a little poem in there. That's me being a poet. But before we go over our gifts, I was thinking about this the other day in the past few weeks, what I was going to speak about. And I kept thinking, think out of the box. And I was like, where did that even come from, right? We've all heard that our whole life. Where does it come? Think out of the box. So I had to Google it, of course. And Technology Today did an article called Thinking Out of the Box, a Misguided Idea. And they claim that it was a J.P. Guilford, and he was a psychologist back in the late 60s, early 70s. And they used to study creation of the mind. So that's where that came, thinking out of the box. My interpretation of the box would be thinking out of your paradigm. Now, in my world, I talk about paradigms all the time with my clients and with myself. But let's back up here a little bit first and know what a paradigm is, because it's a huge word. I believe it's the foundation of everything about ourselves and what we think and believe. A paradigm is a belief, it is a habit, it is a behavior, and it lives in that subconscious mind. So those of you who have seen me speak before, I talk about this a lot because I'm passionate about it. So I'm just going to go over a little bit quickly that in neuroplasticity, they tell us that we use 2 to 4% of our conscious mind. So when I'm pointing to my head like this, you know what I'm doing. So if we only use, say, I'll exaggerate, 3% of our conscious mind, that means the rest that we operate 97% of the day by our subconscious mind. You're just in autopilot daily. We think we're thinking, but we're really not thinking. It's surface thinking. We get up in the morning and our feet hit the floor and we're going to the bathroom and we're brushing our teeth and what are we taking the kids and what are we having for lunch? Do I have more turkey? What do I need to do? That's all surface thinking. That is not what God intended us to do, to be the highest form of creation. Surface thinking, no, he gave us gifts. He gave us mental faculties that all of the other animals in the kingdom here, they don't have. We have the gift of imagination. Jack Barlow talked about imagination back in December. So you can go to our little YouTube and look at that one. I think this is one of the most powerful gifts or tool that we can develop in our lives. Some might say, oh, I really don't have a good imagination. And I say, what? It is your God-given gift. We were all created equally. Maybe you had an eccentric parent, and when you built something, they thought, that is beautiful. Look at how great you are. That is awesome. Way to go, kiddo. Or perhaps one of us had a parent who weren't so nice, but you have to look where they grew up. Maybe they said, that's ugly. Why did you make that? You can't do that. And then you know what? That sticks and it hurts. And that's where the paradigms live. Because from 0 to 7, we don't have a conscious mind. So think about your environment when you were a kid, and you are operating today by those programs that were formed so far and long ago in our lives. So don't we have friends, we go in their house and you say, what, you built that, you did that, or Miss Doreen made this, it's beautiful. Oh, I don't have talent. Yes, you do. Because haven't we gone to the arts and crafts fair or in a gallery and are like, people pay you for that? I have a kind heart, but my dog could do better than that. Imagination, we all have this tool and ability. But what happens is that as kids, right, we could have cardboard boxes and pots and pans and we're driving and we're creative. And then in our culture, we're taught to stop, grow up, pay attention. I mean, at 6 and 7 years old, we're in school paying attention for how many hours? So we're taken away from our imagination. And slowly, we lose our gift of dreaming. That's what imagination is, to create, to dream, to see something that has not already been. Just look around you and everything in your house right now or everything here has been created twice. It once was in someone's imagination. This microphone, SNS nails, hairspray, right? All of it was created in someone's mind. And then they went through and fulfilled it. So what are you dreaming about? Nothing is too silly. Look at Amazon, right? How long is it? I don't even know how long Amazon's been around. Amazon's been along. He was told he was crazy. The Wright brothers, definitely, their dad thought they were crazy. Edison, he had 10,000 patents. He knows he didn't think of these himself. It was the imagination. He called it the ether, the formless substance. And what he did is sit with a ball in his hand and think of a question that he wanted an answer to, and he would take a nap. And as he started to fall asleep, his hand would relax and his hand would open and the ball would fall on the floor and clank, and he'd wake up and he'd write down what he thought. Anyone who has ever done anything big and out of the box, people thought they were definitely crazy. Einstein says, logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will get you everywhere. Think out of the box. Use your imagination. Another gift from God in our mental faculties is that it's called the will. And the will is the ability to focus. President John Kennedy asked Dr. Warner Van Braun, what would it take for them to take a rocket and make it go to the moon? And he just answered in 5 words, the will to do it. If you really think about it, that's crazy. If you're sitting here on planet Earth and you're looking up at that moon is so far away, that just seems insane to me to think. And we just take it for granted these days, right? 1968, the year I was born, they landed on the moon. But think about that, the will to do it. It's absolutely absurd, I think. But the more you practice the will and developing it, the stronger it becomes. Exercises that they say you can do with the will is to sit and stare at a candle or a spot on the wall. I suggest not doing it outside because then you're like, oh, there's a bird and squirrels and friends. And oh, they're playing upstairs. But if you can sit and really focus and concentrate, you can develop that will. I want to use an example of one of my clients. And I realized just this morning in rereading this and writing that she had actually worked with me for a full year before this happened. And COVID hit. And she has a small store. And every morning that summer when COVID was closed due to the laws and the rules here, she could look at that and say, I have to close my doors. But she learned, she'd lay in the hot tub, she'd stare at that spot right there in the wall, and she used her imagination. What can I do? She thought I could do free delivery Tuesdays. What else can I do? I can go online. I have this beautiful camera. I have all this stuff. I go to work every day and put it all online and sell it. And do you know she owned that shop? She still owns it in Daphne for 10 years. That summer were her best sales in 10 years.
Mm.
Wow. Imagination, the will to focus on what it is that you want to create. So it's the development of this imagination to build an image of what you desire your life to be. And it's the will that you use to hold it there. Talk about, so if you're thinking like you hate your job and you're in this negative vibration and you hate this job, think about that. That negative energy is going to attract that to you. So what are your thoughts? Knowing your mind, knowing your will, what are you focusing on daily? To know that you're in that vibrational state and you are going to attract it to you, whether you like it or not. So choose your thoughts wisely. We use the word feeling, and it's just to describe the vibration that we're in. So here's a very important question. Are your results causing your thinking, or is it your thinking that's causing your results? Think about that. You're always looking at the worst, driving to work every day, hating your boss. It's always going to be the same. You can control your mind with your will and imagination and seeing him bringing in coffee and donuts and being smiley and peppy. I wonder how many weeks it would take before he would energetically switch into that vibration. Food for thought. So what are you thinking when you first wake up? Are you in gratitude? Or are you already grumbling about the day and what's going to happen? These are your superpowers. These are God's gifts. You do not have to go around and react to your outside circumstances. We have another mental faculty that we call them. It's called reasoning. Reasoning is what gives us the ability to think. Thinking is our highest function. And it's the ability to originate thoughts. Put them in a formation of ideas. We can observe what we are doing and then think about ideas about how we can do better. This is what my client did. She refused to let her outside circumstances affect her. But this does take practice. And Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about it. 35 years old, he says, I don't know if it's true, that our brain is set by the time we're 35 years old. So what do we do if we're twice that at 70? It's going to take a lot of rewiring to think and rethink. And that's the same way to think for so long. So I think this is where you would say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But if you say it out loud, you create it. Harvard University did a study on that and says that if you say something out loud, you're giving it 10% more energy. And I heard a coach who coaches for Alabama. He said the same thing. He's a mindset life coach for them. And he tells them they're not allowed to complain about the coach or grumble in the shower after. It's not allowed. How do they keep coming back and having a winning team year after year after year when 33% of their team has graduated and moved on? These are one of the tools and the mindsets that they use, is that there is no saying anything negative out loud. You say it, you create it. You can't teach a dog old trick. That sounds definite to me. So let's not say those things and create that. And this is where we need to exercise these gifts. The imagination, the will, the reasoning, and then there's so many more. There's awareness. It's also known as consciousness here at Unity Church, that we are growing in consciousness, that we are aware. Our word. You say what you mean and mean what you say, and you own it. To learn to be, we know in the 4 agreements, to be impeccable with that word. A decision. I actually sent this to Linda this morning. It's an article on decision, and hopefully it makes it into the newsletter. I say print it out. Highlight it, read it, take some things, because everything is a decision. To show up here on Zoom today, to show up here in person today, to wear this blazer, to brush my hair, to brush my teeth, to go outside. Everything is a decision. And where do your decisions come from? They come from those beliefs, your core beliefs that are in that 97%. You're not even think you're thinking. You think you are, but you're not. You're an autopilot. Let's use this magnificent brain that we have and the power. These are tools. These are God's gifts to us. And nobody explains this to us. We just go around like little robots, just reacting to everything around us. We create our world because nobody here is better than anybody. And I always say this, that if you're looking at the Joneses and they have the car, they have the yard, they have whatever it is, and you want that, you too can have that. They have just learned to fertilize their mind so their grass can be as green as they want it. So how are you fertilizing your mind? Are you saying the same things over and over and over, and the body is listening and listening and listening? I know that for me, to be in all honesty and authentic here, like, wait, people think I look beautiful and great. I struggle with 25 pounds. It's that cybernetic that's in our brain that I see and talk a certain way, and I'll lose 25, then I come back to this comfortableness. I do it too. But what I need to start doing is closing my eyes and seeing, yeah, ripped abs, right? But I don't. I hold on to the vision of where I am here, and I continually do so. So year after year after year, no matter as I lose, I always come back to this. So we always can grow, and we always can learn, and we don't beat ourselves up, and we don't have judgment about ourselves. So you're God's children, and we are perfect in His eyes. When you have that release and love myself the way that God loves me, That's when you let go of all those other paradigms of whatever it is to be skinny or look good, right? In this week's newsletter, that was about decision, we get it. So how about another gift being curiosity? To be curious about things in life, to really examine. Einstein said, follow your curiosity. What makes you tick? What do you love? And then follow that. His quote was, I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. And what about intuition? That's one of my favorites. In my belief, this one had a big influence in Edison. He talked about the former, I said it earlier, the ether and the formless substance. He had this higher mental faculty. It was this intuition. It's one of our gifts. And he would tap into that. You're driving down the road and you all of a sudden are inspired and have this idea. That is the intuition. And it can be developed just like all the other gifts. And just like a muscle, you work out. We build that muscle, right? So we're working on the will, working our intuition, working on our imagination. But if you don't, what happens to it? Well, nothing. So what are you working on? Besides complaining about the circumstances maybe in our life. I don't mean to be mean at all. I'm just calling you out. It's getting you to think about what you're thinking about and start thinking about what it is you want in your life and feeling and seeing it there. Your intuition is picking up your vibrations around you. It's like a hunch. But your intuition permits you, it lets you know that you know you know. I know you know what I'm talking about, right? We've all had that before. We have that little image in our head and we just know this is going to happen. And I say the best for last, God's gift. Perception, our point of view. And we see this view through the lens of what I'd say is our paradigm. It's our paradigm, like how do we drive? What do we eat? I know my driving. I got it from my mother, who got it from my grandfather. My grandfather in Oregon, he used to drive students around and give them their lessons in their cars. And so he would always complain about drivers. So then my mom complains about drivers. So now I complain about drivers. Why are they in the passing lane? It's called a passing lane. And every time I go on a long road trip, I want to make a big cardboard thing and put it on the window and be like, so they can't shoot me though. Maybe it'd be like, it's a passing lane. But that's my mom's paradigm, so it becomes mine, and now I know my stepdaughter has it because she heard me in the car. It's a passing lane, people. Sorry, yelling. And so she does it now too. Why are they riding their brakes? There's nobody in front of them. So we have cultural paradigms. And what that is even is like 5th and 6th generation welfarian people, right? They have this belief, it's a paradigm. They can break out of it, but it's what you know, it's what you're comfortable. And even to say on the other side of the coin, they're doctors and lawyers. 5th and 6th year generation of we're doctors, we're lawyers, this is what you do. The paradigm. It's something that you do habitually and you don't even realize you're doing it. And so how does this relate to perception? This one is for women a little bit. So it's January, February, this time of year, we're driving down the road, we're going to a restaurant and we see a woman walk in with white pants. Doesn't she know you're not supposed to wear white in the winter? Where did that even come from? That is a cultural paradigm right there. But yet we do it. And we have judgment because I think that goes hand in hand, perception with judgment. I never really thought I was a judgeful person and I'm not. And a lot of my friends tell me I'm not. But yet, if I see white, it's not even really consciously a thought. I'm like, where does that come from? I wrote, girlfriend, you're not supposed to be wearing white pants. So I'm not even a fashion person, but I can catch myself doing that. And we're tied to that perception. And we add on the judgment and we scoff. Why is she doing that? Doesn't she know that's not supposed to be? So why are we judging people for what they wear? My friends, we call that a paradigm. And it's all about perception. This is a good book here, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And this is an easy one to say. You can say there's a statue of a man on that. No, there's not. And you can say, yes, there is. And we can go back and forth. But because you're right, it doesn't mean I'm wrong. I have my own view. I have my own perceptions. Another one of a story I heard, and you might know this one, girlfriend, is that two friends were hiking up the hill, up a mountainside. And the one person was about 10, 15 feet higher and was like, whoa, look at Lake Shasta. Look how beautiful that is. And she's like 10 steps back, like, what are you talking about? Like, what view? Just 10 steps forward is a whole new view. Perception. Just because someone's right, it doesn't make us wrong, or vice versa, though. It's about that awareness. Einstein says that you can't solve a problem with the same perception that had created it. Or another version of that was like, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use to create them. Coming at it the same way, a fly going out the window, it's just to keep going that perception. So a good way that I coach one way is like, write something out. What's really bothering you? What is your perception of this? And write it out, get it out of you. Put it on paper, there, it's done. Whew. You know how you complain to a girlfriend and maybe then your aunt and then your mother, and we keep doing it over and over, trying to get it out of us. That's what you can do with the problem. Write it out on a piece of paper, put it on a thing. And then you walk around that table and you think about your most favorite mentor or your friend Jim. Think, what would Jim say about this? But that's going to be you got to think out of the box for that one. You know, what would, Abe Lincoln think about it? What would my grandmother think about that? Perception. What does it say here? Our perceptions create our reality, and they are formed by our paradigms, fixed ideas in our head. So we have a fixed view. And You Squared with Price Pritchard, written in the 1970s. I always knew the story in my 20-year-olds. I always used to say, don't be like a fly going out the window. There's a whole back door. Well, now coaching, I read this book and I was like, that's where that story came from. And it's a guy looking at a fly, and it's a futile attempt to just try to harder, and didn't get out that window going. But it doesn't, it dies because it refuses to have a different perception and look the other way. Fly out the back door, come at it at a different angle. Think out of the box, think with a new perception and a new view. And doesn't Wayne Dyer say it, our beloved Wayne Dyer? When you change the way you look at something, the thing you look at changes. Wayne. Our conditionings and our programming, they cause us to look at things the way that we do. The ship sailing off, right? If you saw that ship, think of Christopher Columbus days, you don't even know what that is, but if you see a ship sailing, going and going, you'd think it just fell off the end of the world. Look at train tracks. I'm standing on train tracks. What happens to those two train tracks? They go and they go and they go and they go, and then they merge to one, right? Perception. We don't know what we don't know until we know it. So we need to expand our minds. We need to have awareness and exercise these mental faculties that God has given us. Because when you change your point of view, you can change your whole world. And how do you change your point of view? There's different ways. Maybe you read something, maybe you have a conversation with someone. One example for this story I could tell you is my friend Karen. We had a talk about 6 months ago. Her husband Lou probably died 20 years ago, but she told me a story that one day they were out on the street downtown and a homeless man went by and she gave him $20. He gave her $20. He gave the homeless man $20. And I think the very next day they saw the same homeless man and he gave him another $20. And she said, honey, he's just going and buying alcohol. Like, you just gave him $20 yesterday. And he just said, Angel, it is not my right to judge. And that really caught me because that's how I used to feel. If I'm going to give them money, they're just going to buy booze. Who am I? You give money because you give money. Why are you giving money? To be God yourself? Why are you giving that money? And who are you to judge or condemn? Maybe if I gave you money, you're going to go buy clothes or jewelry. Who's to say? Who are we? That's God's job to judge, right? Not us. So think about that the next time you give someone money. And I know when I go to Pensacola to the co-op that at a certain light, they're going to eat there. And I always feel so torn inside. But since this, my perception changed listening to Lou, who just gave out of the goodness of giving out of his heart. And that story changed me. So my last little story I want to talk about is Mary Morrissey. I think a lot of us are familiar with her. She had a lot of personal development, and she does have Brave Thinking Institute. She's probably in her 64, 65. When she was 21 years old, she went to a 3-day seminar. And the guy said, nothing is bad unless you think it's bad. Everything is based on your programming. She thought to herself, what? There's serial killers, there's people being raped, they're being mugged, like people who are really good people are like having health issues. This isn't right. But the speaker went on to say that, you know, the next time something bad happens, say immediately, this is bad. I don't agree with that part, but he said, just say that this is bad, and then put your internal response on hold. To hit that internal pause and then get really curious, trying to see what possible could come from this unfortunate circumstance. So of course, isn't it funny? The universe is always giving examples. So 2 days later, she's home and her husband comes home from work and he lost his job. 2 children, and she was in graduate school. Tell me you don't want to react to that and freak out, because we are programmed that losing your job is bad. So she applied the tools that the speaker had said, and it says, she remembered, as the instructor said, he said, wait 3 days before you can react when something happens in the future. Remember, you can choose how you feel. And don't panic. Schedule that for like 3-4 days down the road. Give it some time. So basically, don't react in the moment. She realized that she wanted to do all of these things. She wanted to freak, she wanted to react, she wanted to just be, but she didn't. She had to control and just put it off and not let her mind run all over the place about what would we feel? And do you know, within 3 days that her husband got another job, better pay, less hours, closer to home, and he actually could ride his bicycle to work. So I know we have heard this before, but that a lot of times when we're in our future, we're in worry, doubt, fear. We don't know what's going to happen. And 90% of all of that isn't even going to happen. So isn't that a great mental faculty to have the will, to have the reasoning, to have the perception about what's going on and just letting it be. Let go and let God. Isn't that what you kind of preach? She realized she didn't have to wait for circumstances to change before she felt better. So what are you thinking? But what you need to understand is that we're vibrational beings. And if you think those bad thoughts, you're physically putting yourself on that vibration, and you're going to exactly attract what it is that you don't want. And then you say, see, Barbie, you were wrong. But I'm not. You thought about it so much. You thought about it into your existence. This is the physics of what they say. And it's been around over and over and over. There's books that can prove it over and over, like the spoken word. Thank you, Sharon, for that book. That was a great book. I'm doing a book club right now. If anyone would like to join it with us, because you are in control. Hit that internal pause button and use God's gifts, your mental faculties. You can close your eyes and you can have that imagination. See it the way that you want to see it and feel it, they say. What does the sunshine feel like on you? What does that feel like to have that in your possession? Perception. Do we really know too? When you say, well, that can't be that or that, but do we really know 100% that to be true? So why not use your imagination and create your reality? And why is losing your job a bad thing? Why are we programmed that way? Because maybe it is and maybe it's not. But I think it's maybe the universe kicking your butt, because maybe you're going to work grumbling every day because vibrationally you set that intention. There's another one. You set the intention that you're going to work grumbling every day. Of course, universe is going to hear it and say, if you hate your job, then here we go. We're going to make you lose it. Is there something better out there for you? Because God always wants what's better for us. You create your reality with your intentions. So get really clear what you want with your intentions. And what I can think of this is I know some friends, they stay together. They're not happy in their relationship with their husbands, but they stay together for the kids. They stay together for their job. They stay together for the house, for the money. But underlying, they're done with the relationship. So guess what that intention is? You can say on this side, I want to stay in this relationship, but inside your heart is dead. That's an intention. And the stronger one is going to win. So really get clear with those intentions in your life, what is really important to you, and get clear with that. And start creating your world from the inside out, not reacting from the outside in. These are God's gifts: awareness, imagination, intentions, will, reasoning, perception. They are all higher frequency thinking. So start applying them. Set a schedule to study. Maybe one week you're like, I'm going to work on will and stare it up. Maybe the next week you're like, I'm going to come up with 3 different patents. Just have fun with it. Make up anything. Maybe something that can fix this Wi-Fi here in the church.
Yes.
And just start with the awareness, because when you're in the present and you have awareness, you have everything. And so Steve Bo's quote that I had in the beginning is just listen, God's gift to you is more talent and ability than you could ever possibly use in your lifetime. And our gift to God is to develop as much of that talent and ability as you can in this lifetime. So thank you. And now we'll go into some meditation. So let's just go ahead and just close our eyes. Again, feel your feet flat on the floor, grounding back to Mother Earth. Feel your hips. Think of your hips like a tree trunk, like in front and back on the sides, and that you're really grounding down like a pillar to the middle of Earth with tree trunks, little roots going down through your feet. And then imagine this column of white light at your space of your spine going all the way up into the heavens, the stars. And you relax your head and your shoulders. You relax all your facial muscles. And you take a nice deep breath in and let the body know that you're here now. When you breathe deep, the body naturally relaxes. And now, with your eyes closed, think of that black easel right there. And start to create your world. It's a sunny day. You're running. Maybe there's flowers, you're in a field, you're in the ocean. Where are you? Use that imagination. See. Feel the wind and the sun. Smell the air. Is it salty, or is it full of flowers, or is it fresh mountain air? What do you see for your world? What do you create for your world? How does it make you feel? The loved ones around you. This is your gift. Why do you think we have an imagination? We can think anything we want. Get crazy. Find your breath. Sink into this moment. That's why it's called present, because it is a gift. Be grateful. Express your gratitude to God daily and how blessed we are. Even if we have problems, let's focus on all the good we have. If your right leg hurts, be thankful your left one doesn't hurt. So find your breath one more time to just pause for a moment of silence, and you use your imagination and create your reality. And just keeping your eyes closed, go ahead and play some music. And just stay in this moment. Stay in your dream.
Where I am, stand, God is standing still. Where I breathe, God is breathing life in and out and through me. As me, where I sing, God is. Where I dance, joy lifts my feet. Where I live, beauty's flowing free, in and out and through me. As me, for where I doubt, God is the faith in me. Where I cry, God is the comfort there. Where I sing, God is the answer. Here and now, forever and ever and ever. Where I speak, truth is. Where I work, love is my career. And where I play, God is playing boldly, in and out and through me. As me. Oh, oh. Do-do-do. Where I am, where I stand, where I play, where I work and breathe and move and be, where I sing, where I dance, wherever I go, where I pray and take and give and live. God is, God is, God
So thank you, Bobby Joe, for an enlightening and inspiring message using the power of our mind with higher awareness thinking in our daily living. Now is the time that we give our offerings. Donations are gratefully accepted with a debit or credit card on our website with PayPal or Venmo, or through our Facebook page. Use the pinned post at the top right. If you prefer to give by check, you can mail your contribution to Unity on the Eastern Shore, P.O. Box 776, Fairhope, Alabama 36533. And we'll have our prayer for protection, which we can all say together. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. Wherever I am, God is. And we'll have our peace song.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the peace song didn't load, so there will be no peace song today.
Okay, do we have the words on the screen that we could read together?
We do not, sorry.
So then we can recite what we remember from memory.
Great.
And I will begin with, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, peace that was meant to be. I hear some of you reciting it.
Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony.
Perfect harmony.
Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. Every breath I take, let this be my joyous vow. Live each moment.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with us. So we want to thank Bobby Joe and stay for some fellowship now at the end of our service.